Now it's weird.
Come into the photo.
Yeah,
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Hey, so we're here at Bentley Pascoe. There he is right there. If you don't see him in the chat normally on the live stream, well, hey, here's a tour of his fish room. You can check out some of his projects and stuff. We're not going to blow the doors off and let you know everything that's going on because we'll probably be back in a couple of months. And if you do want to check out more details of what he's got going on, check out your YouTube channel. What is it?
Literally just Bentley Pascoe.
Hey, it's his name. It'll be in the description.
Nice and simple.
Yeah, it'll be in the description down below. Be sure to hit the like button and call your mom and tell her that you like fish too.
So I had like 40 maculosus babies. They were about a week and a half old at the youngest. And in a 24-hour period, I lost every single one. But in the exact same tank, in a different one of those rings that are there in that bucket, were my parvas, and all my parvas were perfectly fine. So they were originally floating over in this water system with the ungulums. And it was literally, those two rings were side by side over here. And it's like, I woke up in the morning, I noticed I'd lost one baby, and I was kind of like, well, you lose babies when they're that young every once in a while. They can be super fragile.
Right.
So I went in with a little pipette, pulled the one baby out. I had to go for the day. I come back, all but one are dead. And I go like, okay, I cleaned them all out. I've got the one left. And I was like, well, it's too small to probably transfer to one of the other tanks. I don't see anything wrong with the ring it's in. I don't see anything that makes me think like it's going to die.
Right.
So I'm not really sure what's going on. And all the parva are perfectly fine in the same ring. And I lost the last one, and that's the one like I haven't told Gary that happened yet, because I did a major boo-boo, which is totally my fault. So with the Aleni's that are up there in the tank that's not lit because it's hooked to my CO2 timer, and I don't want to screw with that right now. They started hatching, and my roommate had sent me a text while I was at work before he had to go take care of some family in Oregon. He's like, hey, they're starting to hatch. Do you want me to throw a plant in there? Because usually we try to keep a floating plant in with baby rainbows.
Right.
Gives them microorganisms, all that kind of infusoria to feed off of. We'll culture them in other tanks and then bring them over. And he was like, yes. And the thing I forgot to do, which I have been a stickler on in the past, but it's because I moved them myself, is I forgot to go make sure there are no snails on it.
Right.
There were 2 bladder snails on the piece that he moved over. I had 2 that had hatched. Before any others hatched, because usually they'll hatch in the morning and you typically don't see more throughout the day. Sometimes you will. It kind of depends on the fish. By the next morning, every other egg that hadn't fungused had been eaten.
Oh, yeah.
And so Gary had done a little check-in on me just because I had bought so many fish and was like, hey, how's everything going? And I told him that story and he's like, hey, I'm mailing some eggs to one of the folks that are friends of mine up there. I'll just include another mop with some Millenni eggs.
Right.
And I was like, what do I do? He's like, don't worry about it. Just, coordinate with them and, maybe offer to pay some of the shipping. Right. And I even offered, I told them, I was like, I'll pay the whole of the shipping. And they're like, don't worry about it.
Right.
Because
That's awesome.
a lot of
Gary's an awesome guy.
Gary is really awesome, and I haven't told him about the maculosis because I don't want to. Belem, sometimes called Tanina Belem. That plant is actually probably the hardest plant to keep in this entire tank because it's very high light required, wants soft water, and must have CO2. When I first got it in, all the stems were about as big as this little child stem down here, and all but one of them melted completely back and died. I've grown from that one stem all of this in I think it's about 5 months now. Yeah. It's a really cool plant. It's just difficult. I mean, somebody like you would have no problem with it. You've got the right rig, but if you don't go under the assumption you're going to lose a bunch of it, you're going to be really disappointed. I literally bought it as an add-on to an order because I was like $5 short of making the shipping quota, and I was like, I think a buck or $1.50 a stem, and I was like, oh, I'll just add some of this, even though it's hard, and just like that'll be my challenge for the next couple months is this plant. And then as we come across, there's a bunch of crypts, which is a little tough. There's a pink flamingo that's really pissed right behind this. This is Crypt spiralis red tiger. This is one of the stems of Rotala atrial that's in the tank. Yep. This is Hygrophila corymbosa parawatota, which is kind of it's a corymbosa. It's not super common, but at the same time, I can't confirm it from multiple sources, so it's hard to know if that's a real name. This is some Boost Brownie Brown.
Right, you're gonna have to do some stem breakdown and whatnot, leaf structure comparison.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean it's been tough. And then the right up front is Ludwigia senegalensis. And then there's some Alterna reinekii behind that. Yep. This is Bacopa colorata that I just got. That's got to grow in and color up properly.
Do I know where you got that?
You definitely know where I got that. Behind that is some Rotala bonsai. And then
I recognize this group here.
Yeah, it's funny that this gentleman messaged me after you talked to him. And then behind both of those, this dark green is a Hygrophila corymbosa green olive, which I really like that dark green color. It's very pretty, and it's a smaller leaf shape and slower grower than most of the other Hygrophilas, which I really like. This is just a ton of Alternathera reinekii. God, if we go in here, this is where it gets a little nuts. Might have to like raise this just to help. So there's way over here. This is Pogostamen Heidelberg, and then behind it is Pogostamen erectus.
Yeah.
Over here is Pogostamen Kimberly. This like purple leafed. It's actually one of the rarer Pogostamens. There's some like Ludwigia super red here. In the back, this bright green small leaf is what happens when Rotala mini butterfly throws its off-colored stems. And I decided to cultivate some of them for fun.
Yeah.
Hidden way down in there is some Ludwigia glandulosa because it grows super slow. This is some like Marsilia minuta that's been floating that I need to deal with.
Yeah.
And then we go to the far side. In the middle, where you can see it, is Alternanthera reinekii variegated. If you look toward the back, you can actually see the veins that are under the AC-110 back there. When it gets too high, you start losing the veining. And then there's Rotala Eni, is all the really small stuff all over the place. And then Ludwigia pantanal, which that stuff's all been growing like crazy. I've got to rip a ton of it out. And then down, it's going to be a little harder to see. We got down in here in the back, behind the Syngonanthus, are some crypt nuri. Let me see if I can shed some light over that way. And a crypt hooteroi. Yeah, the hooteroi is slowly coming back. I got it as a like literally single leaf tiny plant, and it's slowly coming in. It's just a super slow grower. There's two types of nuri in there. There's the very far one way over here is nuri rosenmaiden, and then over there's like 4 or 5 of them now that have been growing out are just a standard kind of nuri species. None of the special named ones. But that's been starting to take off like wildfire lately, which has been nice.
Who's this Autocyclus here? What's his name?
I don't know. Auto number whatever.
Let's call him Roberta.
The real neat one, technically, although you can't see anything cool about it lately, this very small crypt over here, there's just this tiny green thing. Same guy that you got some of your plants from. That is a crypt Ponderditifolia. I'm really bad at saying that name.
Ponderditifolia.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Rose lips.
There's a very sneaky guy named me who's got 3 of those hiding in a sump.
The Ponderifolias? You got the rose lips ones? Nice.
Yeah.
So there's
sump, so
two.
people like him. I can't steal them. I don't know the names. How can I steal something I don't know how to pronounce?
Well, it's really interesting. So there's 2 versions of that. There's the rose lips, which gets this really cool dark striation pattern to it, and then there is the Rosanervig. And the difference is the Rosanervig actually has a virus that's living inside the plant that changes the coloration from the rose lips to the Rosanervig.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and so this particular guy who's like, he lives literally a mile from my house. Now that you've been to both, you know that the distance is very short.
I'm like, oh, hey. He's right around the corner.
He grows them in an immersed setup, and they're really cool. And then he's like, oh yeah, so the way that I do my immersed has so much moisture that you're seeing the submerged growth in most of those crypts. I was like, so what you're selling me is this little bright green thing is going to end up like this beautiful dark green with all this crazy striation crypt. And he's like, yes. Do you want one? I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, yes, of course I want one. I'm a plant nerd. Of course I want one.